Should we start by saying hi? Do you want to say hi in the chat box and write your name and where you are calling from? So we start this. My goal is to make this engaging. I don't know you, but sometimes I get tired being in front of the computer all day. Anybody can relate to that? Getting tired of being in the computer? So it's important to get engaged. So I'm going to do this as engaging as I can. I want to welcome new colleagues that I see join. Erica, to see you here, and Fatima. Welcome to the call. And we are going to, so if you want to say hi, so we get to see who are here today in this session, in this dialogue. And I'm going to start by sharing a video. For people who do not know me and you're wondering about my accent, it's from Argentina, but I live in Los Angeles. So I am originally from Buenos Aires. I have been living in Los Angeles for the last 30 years. And I have been coaching for more than 30 years. And over the years, I get to work with leaders worldwide and do my coaching executive work worldwide. As a result of that, eventually became involved with International Coach Federation. I was the global president for 2 years. And I got involved also with the EMCC because I wanted my coaching supervision program to be accredited by EMCC. So what it is. So I have been involved now in this space that is for all of the coaching programs. So this space originally, Nicola, is dedicated to all of the colleagues who are offering and are involved in training coaches, supervisors, mentors. That was your original idea with this space. Correct, Nicola? Am I correct? So with that in mind, the topic today is a little bit more general. In my heart, I love coaching. I got everybody in my family to go through coaching training, both of my parents, my brother, their wife, my nephews, my closest friends, my own partner. I do believe that coaching makes a difference in the world. And with that in mind, I was very interested in how to bring coaching and the coaching practice to the next level. So the conversation today is about that, how as coaches, we are working on developing ourselves and bringing awareness to ourselves, our practice, and our clients, so we can be even more effective. One way to do that is through supervision. But supervision for coaching is not the only one. That's one of the ways that we get high level of awareness. But also over the years, I was interested in asking that question. What can I do to be more effective coach for my clients? And I thought that becoming a foresight practitioner was one of the ways. So some of you may have participated in some of my sessions about being future fit, prepare for the future. I have done that over the years for EMCC programs. So today we're going to have a sense of that. I also wrote 8 books over the last few years, and the last one, most of them in Spanish, my first language, is on the post-COVID leadership. So some of the things I'm going to share with you is about the book that I just finished writing. So now the editor is publishing it. So eventually this book is going to be out by the end of the year, I hope. So I want to share with you some of the research and some of the work that I have done looking at the post-COVID leader. Now, post-COVID is relative because we are still experiencing COVID. I don't know how many of you know people now that they have COVID. Anybody? Yeah. I know people last week, 2-3 people who have COVID. So it's not really post-COVID. We are still experiencing COVID. So I just want to clarify that. We are not completely over it. But we are going back to some sense of new normal or normalcy. Like, for example, yesterday I ended by having my gym bag, my mask that I used to go to bring with me to the gym. And I finally took it out from my bag. But still in my gym, I see some people who are still using a mask. Don't you? In your spaces, do you see some people still use masks and still are paying attention to? Some of you say yes, some of you say no. So it depends maybe where we live and where we are. And the idea today is to answer some questions. So I want to start first by sharing a 2-minute video. I want you to take some notes and see what are your reactions about this video. Okay, is everybody ready?
We have been facing many challenges due to COVID-19. We have developed new skills to work virtually and took our technological expertise to the next level. We have to develop new perspectives. Today, I would like to invite you to reflect on how to be future fit, how to develop muscles to prepare to navigate new challenges facing us. What do we need to do to be well prepared to support ourselves and our clients to develop new awareness? How are we going to be intentional in developing new knowledge and new skills to be better prepared to embrace the present and future challenges? What are you doing to keep learning about current trends? How are you learning from the experience of your colleagues? All changes around us are opportunities, but not for everybody. For professionals willing to invest time and energy in being prepared and adapting. We live in a globalized world, and we need to pay attention not only to local, but also to global trends. We have to develop higher levels of patience, resilience, flexibility, emotional, social, and cultural intelligence. We must develop new sensitivities to deal with diversity issues, inequality issues, technology, and artificial intelligence. What are you and your organization doing to be future fit? Let's embrace the future together with a positive outlook, hope, resilience, and courage.
So how you are embracing the future? And that's the question that I ask my clients, the leaders that I am working with. So even though when I put together this video was targeted to other coaches collaborating and working together, the question is how our clients, who are leaders, who are leading organizations, how they are embracing the future and getting ready to the current and future challenges. So this is a little bit of the framework that I want to invite everybody to have today. So in terms of the presentation, I want to share with you briefly some slides. Okay, so the idea is that the topic is the coaching leaders in the post-COVID era. This is what we're covering. The video that I shared with you is to start thinking about some of the issues. So as you can see in the video that I shared with you, COVID-19 affected all of us, but affected us in different ways. So the first question that I want to ask you before we start is how COVID-19 affected you? What is different for you now? Because it is very different for us based on where we live, based on our experiences, based on many different factors. COVID-19 affected all of us in different ways. So I want to start by asking you, if you had to answer this question, how COVID-19 affected you? What would you think is the first thing that came up for you? And then how also COVID affected your clients? Not only how COVID affected you, but how COVID impacted the client that you're working with. So if I ask you, particularly this session is more focused on executive coaching organization, but you may be a life coach, that's okay too. If you work as a coach or as a mentor, what have you seen the main impact of COVID in people's lives? What would you say the main impact, and how is that still alive now? And how it still is impacting the people's lives? Like, for example, for me, and I was talking to this about Nicola, we're talking about the EMCC global conference. By the way, everybody is invited. We want to be in Prague in June. And I was telling Nicola that I don't travel any longer, that I don't want to leave my home. I am very comfortable here, and I will do anything not to travel, even to travel in Los Angeles, where I live, to see clients if I don't have to. So the question is for you, how COVID affected you? In which ways your life and your work is different? Now, something else also, I'm going to move that from the way here. What is different now in your coaching as a result of COVID-19? What have you seen different for you in the work that you do? And in your practice in general? Like, for example, I shared before that for me, before I used to see some of my clients in person, I don't do that any longer. I work only virtually. So this is one of my conditions to work, working virtually. So I want to invite you to consider what is different for you in your coaching, working with your clients, and your practice. I want to give you a minute to answer. What is the new normal? What are the new approaches that require what we are doing? And let me ask you, what do you think? I want to invite everybody. I have some research that I want to share with you. But before I share the research, I want you to write down in the chat room. I want to engage everybody. What do you think, based on your experience as a coach, working with your clients, working with leaders, what do you think is required for leaders as a result of COVID-19? So I want everybody to participate. I want to invite everybody to get engaged and in the chat room to answer this question. What do you think are some of the new skills, attitudes, perspectives that leader needs to demonstrate to be successful in this post-COVID era? So let's get everybody's reactions, and then I will share with you the results. Okay, so let's read some of the comments that we have here. Thank you for everybody participating. This needs to be more flexible, aware and connected. And is enjoying traveling more. Only team coaching in person. Interesting. Less traveling. More focus on resourcing, resilience, sustainability, and looking to emerging future preparedness. Mostly virtual. That is about what people change. With the pandemic, I got to teach people how to create value online, as I had already been working like that before. Hybrid practice now. So hybrid practice is one of the key changes, and how to adapt and work with a hybrid work environment. And many leaders are struggling with that. Anybody's coaching somebody who's bringing this to coaching as a discussion, how to work in a hybrid workspace? Now, this is one of the key challenges. And it's interesting because there need to be some elements in the system for hybrid work environments to work. And one is trust. So when there is no trust between the leader and the reports and the teams, the leader is always wondering what people are doing if they're not at work. Have you seen that? You know, this is something that I see a lot with my clients, that they're struggling how to create a place where it works for everyone. But the key element for hybrid workplace to work is a culture of trust. When that culture, that trust does not exist, it's a problem, and people are struggling with that. And that's related to somebody who wrote flexibility, what is required from leader flexibility. This is one of the key elements. And not all leaders are as flexible as they think. Even you, I ask you, everybody here, we have 58 people in this call. How flexible are you? Most of the time, we think we are much more flexible than what we really are. Is that possible? That we think that we are really flexible, but if we ask our partners, may or may not agree with that. So flexibility and capacity to adapt and be resilient is one of the key challenges that leaders need to face and work with their teams. How to support their teams to deal with change, and how to manage that uncertainty, and how to build that trust so people feel confident that people are doing whatever they need to do by themselves without having to be in the office. I have gone through 2 memory foam cushions on my work chair. I am sedentary more these days. Well, as a result of COVID, I gained a lot of weight. But then I went back to the gym and I lost a lot of weight, and now I'm much more fit than before COVID. So, you know, it works differently for different people in different situations. Just started coaching, but not see much one-to-one coaching, all via phone or online. Yeah, besides the traveling, this Mara said, getting more and more used to effective and creating rapport without physical presence. Yeah, that's another skill that we need to develop, how we build empathy and relationships virtually. By the way, anybody have experience that you work with somebody virtually for a long time and you finally meet the person in person, and you cannot believe that you can never ever meet them before in person? This started to happen to me after 2 years working virtually. When I start meeting some of these people in person, it's difficult in my system to believe that I never meet them in person. And they say, well, we never meet in person. This is the first time we're doing that. And I say, okay, that cannot be possible. And it was possible. Yusra, you have a comment about that?
Well, I have two people that I work with like this. With one, I've been working for 3 years, and I only saw her in person for 3 times maybe. But we're working so closely that we were shocked to think that it was only 3 times. It's been as if we've been seeing each other personally every day. And we've got a young project assistant whom I met only twice. But we managed to build the rapport and the trust. And people on Monday couldn't believe that it was the second time only that we'd seen each other personally.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I believe that many people can relate to that. And as you can read in the chat box, there are many very interesting points. So I would invite everybody to read that so we can learn from each other. Mari said that leader needs to be more attentive, more present, more flexible, and more communicative. And communication, I believe, is one of the key words here. Communicate, communicate, communicate. This is what required. Some of the post-COVID leadership, let me show that we meet here. It requires that level of flexibility we talked before, and communication. How effective leaders are communicating, because under crisis, people expect to get some guidance. So this is what happened during COVID, and now too, people are waiting to get some guidance, but at the same time, the power structures are changing. I think as a result of COVID, and this is as a trend, where the power is more distributed, where it's expected that it's not at the top, it's not a hierarchical relationship, and there are cultural differences. I come from Argentina. Latin America culture still is a little bit behind about the relationship with authority and power, but we still see companies in the United States that are more hierarchical. So that is a trend, more distributed power. This is where we're going in the future. And the leaders who are able and willing to go there, they will be more successful than the one who resists to share power. Anybody experience that with your leaders that you're working with? They had to struggle and challenge, and you need to work with them in coaching to explore power relationships and how power plays in the relationships and in the organizations. These are areas that require our work as coaches. And I do believe that if we are not aware of this, we cannot, and the client is not aware of this, we cannot discuss it. It's a problem. I do believe that the client is always the one who brings the agenda. But if the coach is not engaged and not aware of what's happening in the world, politically, socially, economically, environmentally, cannot bring this to the awareness of the client if the client doesn't have that awareness. So I do believe that we do have some responsibility to be informed and to bring to our clients awareness, whatever is not, because they may not know what they don't know. I do believe that we as coaches need to bring some of these issues to our clients' awareness. Let me share with you a couple of more slides, and then we'll go to small groups. So let me go back to my slides, the representation. So the idea is here that a model that I use working as a coach with leaders, I tell them, let's work in these 3 areas: detect, respond, and evolve. Whenever they're bringing issues to discuss, it is how you are working on detecting what are the changes in the horizon, what are the signals, what are the threats, what are the opportunities, how you're paying attention to that so you can respond, and how you are working on uncovering the implications and how you can plan accordingly. So how you keep developing the muscle to being aware and paying attention to changes in the environment. And then how do you evolve? What are you doing as a leader to keep evolving, growing, thriving in this changing environment? And it's different for each leader. But these are questions that I think we need to bring to our clients. Now, let me share a few resources. There are many resources on the topic. This first one, it's a book. It's in Spanish. So I don't know how many people here, a couple are Spanish speakers. It's a good resource. It's from Diego Quindimil. It's called The Post-COVID World. And he talked in section about leadership. And he's a psychologist himself. And he is saying that leaders need to be, in this post-COVID era, somewhat like psychologists in terms of providing a space for staff to express themselves. So he called the leader psychologist. I am not sure if I agree or even if I like it. But what he's saying that I think it's important as a point is that The leaders need to develop the patience, the flexibility, and the empathy to really engage with their reports in a way that promote mental health and show closeness and support. So I think the new, even I'm going to share with you more research that shows that engagement is key. For more engagement, the relationship with the boss is key. So leaders need to pay extra attention these days in how to build these relationships and how to be more psychology-like in terms of being more empathic, listening, showing understanding. And this is not very far from coach. I think that it's also being more coaches. As some research showed that coaching, and Diego Quindimil is also a coach too. But he was bringing how some of the skills that he uses as a psychologist, he also uses it as a leader and recommend that to use to other leaders. So the idea is that some of the key elements under COVID-19, there is a very interesting article I want to recommend, and I can share the resource with you. It's an article from Human Resource Development International that talk about leadership competencies for leaders in times of crisis in response to COVID-19 pandemic. And this article shared that these are the key elements that leaders need to demonstrate to be effective during and after COVID-19. One is providing a sense of purpose, of being sense makers. Interesting that sense maker as a word was not accepted when I was going through the spelling, but the idea is a sense maker. The leader needs to provide some guidance so people can follow and can understand where the organization is going. Needs to share the leadership. We're talking about distribute power. Doesn't work any longer, just a leader making all decisions by him or herself. Communicate, communicating in the pattern. In many articles, bibliography, all these different articles available, all are very consistent. What is required for leaders post-COVID is being effective at communicating. Ensuring employee access to technology or technology enabling people to really take advantage of technology. You could see in the video that I put together, I pay a lot of attention to technology. Prioritize employees' emotional stability and well-being. This is similar to what Diego Quindimil talked about, being more like a psychologist. Maintain organizational financial health and promote organizational resilience. As these are the key skills based on the research that they have done that leaders need to demonstrate. So these are some of the key elements. You hear that in the video that I put together. These are the key competencies that leaders need to be paying attention to be successful in this post-COVID-19 era. Patience related to what we talk about being present, being connected, resilience, the ability to bounce back, the ability to learn from the experience and move forward, flexibility to adapt to all of the different challenges, emotional intelligence to know themselves, work on knowing and being empathetic with the people that they work with, being able to manage their emotions, being able to build relationships effectively. And finally, social and cultural intelligence, how we engage in all of these relationships in all of the different systems. So these are some of the key competencies that you may wonder, were they necessary before COVID-19? And I would say, yeah, probably yes. Probably some of it was even required before post-COVID-19, but post-COVID-19 required this to go to the next level. So I think that this is one of the key messages. Most of you have heard about VUCA, a world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And I'm probably sure that most of you have heard about that. If you have never heard about VUCA, that is something that I explore with my clients. Sometimes now there are new acronyms, Barney and many other new ones that are coming up. But the idea is that we're facing volatility, changes all the time, that sometimes is overwhelming for leaders. Sometimes our job as coaches is to normalize and validate that experience and see what they can do about it. The uncertainty, the markets now economically in the world is wondering what's next. There is fear, and you can experience that fear in the organizations. And are we as coaches going there, or we are not going there? Complexity, the level of complexity, how to manage all of these competing priorities can make the job of the leader complex. That complexity make it even more complex. And finally, ambiguity. There are inconsistencies, things that are that paradoxes that needs to be worked through, that make the work of the leader and our work as coaches too interesting. Now, there is an article for Harvard Business Review from last year that I highly recommend if you're interested in the topic. It's about management, not leadership. But some of the key elements are consistent with what I have found in the lead review, is that having good relationship with managers is a top factor for employees' job satisfaction and well-being. So again, how do we bring this awareness to the client we're working with? There are 3 dimensions of change in the role of the managers and leaders. One is about power, the other is about skills, and the other is about structure. Power, we mentioned before, skills also, and structure is related to working in the hybrid world, in a more fluid work environment, and how we work through that. Now, one key element related to power also is that teams are not to serve the leader, but the leader needs to serve the team. This is interesting. So making teams successful is a key element for the new leader, for the leader of the future, post-COVID leader, how the leader is effective at making the team successful. And that's the reason why team coaching is so important now. And that's the reason why companies are looking at team coaching as sometimes an investment that can be even a better investment than just coaching the leader, coaching the team, because at the end of the day, the teams are the ones who are making possible the changes that need to be made. The teams are the ones who are going to operationalize and make things happen. So that's the reason why EMCC, ICF now have accreditation for team coaching. And I do believe that that is very important moving forward. And I do believe that that's an opportunity for executive coaches to also look into this area and be trained so they can provide team coaching services too. And the other one, interesting, coaching is key. So leaders now need to see coaching as a basic skill. So the idea is to coach performance, not just to oversee tasks. So I think that like coaching now is positioned worldwide and recognized as one of the most important developmental practices. And also the manager and the leader as a coach now is also with the spread known that that makes a big difference. At the end, these 3 areas of coaching, communication, employee well-being were the 3 key areas where leaders and coaches need to pay attention to. So the idea of this study also showed that they researched 60 companies, and they find that the leaders and the executives have high levels of stress, and there were 60% of them experience frustration and exhaustion in their work. So then there is an element of mental health. And I don't know how many of you, but I found myself many times referring clients to mental health services because of COVID-19, being aware of the grief, sadness, anger as a result of all of the changes. I do believe that that is something that we are not talking enough. The impact of COVID-19 in the mental health of people. Look around you. Like, I know in my family, some members got depressed. My little niece at school, after being for first time in school, have some difficulties after being the queen of the house and doing whatever she wanted to finally being in kindergarten. She has some difficulties in adapting. So I believe that this is affecting all of us in some ways. And I do believe that as coaches, we need to go there and go deeper. So the other question is, how effective are you as a coach supporting leaders and their organizations to be future ready? And this is part of what we were talking before. And the last question is related to how leaders also are paying attention to diversity issues, diversity, inclusion, and belonging as a key issue that I do believe that we all need to be paying attention and working and exploring together. So I'm going to stop here so we can go to groups. And we're going to ask you is to answer this question. What is required of the leader of the post-COVID-19 era? And what is the role of the coach? Some of you already wrote in the chat room. So the idea is that based on this conversation and what you have written in the chat room, to have a discussion. And then we will all get back together. Okay, so Nicola, can you help me to form groups with people? So we, for 10 minutes, have an opportunity to meet other colleagues, to answer these questions and come back. By the way, if you cannot go to a small group, don't leave, because we still have more to discuss, okay? Sometimes people, when they say, okay, it's time for breakout room, disappear. So you don't need to go. If you don't want to participate, you can still stay for 10 minutes, but you may want to hear what are people's comments and reactions and discussions in the small groups. So let's go to the group. When we come back in 10 minutes, we will hear some of you who wanted to share what happened in your discussions. Welcome back. Thanks for staying. And who would like to share? Who would like to share some of your thoughts and ideas? By the way, I don't want to forget that everybody's back. I am going to post in the chat room the reference, the article that I shared with you before. You may be interested in learning more about it. It's called Leadership Competencies and the Essential Role of Human Resource Development in Times of Crisis, a response to COVID-19 pandemic, from Dirani et al., a group of people, and from the Human Resource Development International magazine. So if you're interested. And then later, I don't want to forget, Barbara, for you to share with people also your book. One of my colleagues here who put together a book to support people to bounce back from COVID-19. So Barbara, let me sure that then you put also the resource, and you want to put it right now, so we don't forget. We can go back to that. So who would like to start? Yes, Kari, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you, Damian, and all of you for the fantastic evening here. For me, it's evening. I had the pleasure of being together with Linda Ledin in a subgroup, and one of the interesting observations that we explored is that where before COVID, many leaders said to us, well, I don't care when my people work, how they work, and what they exactly do, as long as the work is done before the deadline. Okay, interesting. What they started saying during COVID, it's very interesting. Carl, Linda, I'm getting crazy. I do not see anymore when my people work, how they work, and what they do. I get crazy about this. And I found that very interesting because I used that situation that contains apparently serious contradiction and in expectations. I use that often to start coaching conversations with, are you aware, dear leader, of that what you're saying now couldn't be more opposite with what you said 3 years ago? This is really strange. And we started on that basis coaching conversation, probably because, well, the expectations all of a sudden changed. I don't know, because the illusion of or possibility of control, even though they did not control before COVID, stopped existing. Everyone gave a personal, well, explanation for that, I think, but it is a tension, a contradiction that I explored a lot. Thank you.
Carol, thank you very much for sharing that. I appreciate that comment because I have seen that too. And if we look, I like to use metaphors when I work with my clients, and when I train coaches, mentor coaches, supervisor, team coaches, and I like to use metaphors. And the metaphor that I use is the iceberg. So when you see the iceberg at the top, whatever the client is bringing to the session, and you start going underlying, what is underlying this issue? And one of the issues we shared before is trust. What happened that suddenly, before you trust the people, and now you don't trust anymore? What's going on? So that is one of the issues. But the other issue is connection. If we go and try to explore what is underlying, many times what is missing is lack of connection. Some people feel disconnected. They feel disconnected with their leader, or the leader can feel disconnected to the people. So it's not that he doesn't care about what they're doing, but there is not connection. They don't know, not only they don't know what is happening, they're not connected. So that lack of connection is also an issue to explore, and how you can keep that connection even when you're working virtually in a hybrid environment. So this issue of connection is a really good one to explore together, how we can keep connected even when we are not present. And there are ways, like for example, in my family, something personal, like I have two brothers, both of my parents are in Buenos Aires, and I am very connected with them. I am more connected with them even than my brothers who live in the same city. So sometimes proximity doesn't mean necessarily that we have that level of connection. You can be in the same office and not be connected. So the question that I like to ask my clients is, what do you do to be sure that you create the connection that you need so you can be engaged working together? Okay. Thank you, Cal, for that. Rita, anything you want to share?
Yeah, thank you, Damian. Thank you. So there were a couple of things for us. One is, I think there are some really good examples of where leaders have engaged digitally. So I think we can be creative with metaphor, with imagery, with everything else. But we talked about the need to, really get down to individual level in terms of, what people need. So some people, don't want to be in the office, others don't. And actually we should be able to, I think one of the things that was mentioned earlier was flexibility. And we should be able to accommodate. I guess slightly more radical is we talked in our group about, well, why do we want to go back? There was a massive opportunity in the pandemic to actually fundamentally rethink how we organise society and how we organise business. And so, a bit of a sense in our group of quite disappointed that we're focusing on going back rather than thinking, well, what are the opportunities to fundamentally reorganize? And I think particularly, and again, I'm conscious not everybody will share this view, but when you actually think about, the social challenges, the climate challenges that we have, there is an argument that we as coaches should be helping people fundamentally redesign society. And I agree. Sure we're embracing that in quite the way we can.
I agree, and I think that most people here may agree. I don't know everybody, but my guess is that most people choose to be coaches because we want to make a difference, don't we? And now, how do we do that? Is what makes a difference. But I appreciate what you're saying because yes, COVID-19 give us all in different ways time to reflect, and sometimes become a philosophical exploration. We had some of us had to deal with life and death. Maybe you have a family member who died of COVID. I know people who died of COVID. I had COVID at the beginning. I was scared to death, and I'm very scared, like I would die. I was not very sick, but I still didn't have any resources. I was at the beginning where there was not much information. So we all had to deal with this in different ways. And it was a time for reflection. And I do believe that the Great Resignation is part of that, isn't it? It's people reflecting and thinking, what kind of life do I want to have? Do I want to keep working for this boss? Do I want to keep being in this place that is not healthy, etc. So I do believe that COVID-19 gives us also some gifts in terms of bringing higher level of awareness and reflection and choosing how we want to live our life. And I do believe that a leader who are able to pay attention to that are the ones who are going to be more successful and who are going to be able to move forward in more effective way for their organizations. Before I asked Barbara I was multitasking and reading the chat. So Barbara, I want to thank you for sharing the resource. She wrote a book about bouncing back from COVID-19, and she shares some of her experience and she shares some strategies. So she's offering it for free as a resource. So thank you for doing that. And then before we finish, you may say something about it. We need to start wrapping up. But all of being presence and mindfulness, it does make a difference dealing with stress and all of these changes. Liz, great to hear your voice. Great you're here.
Thank you, Damian. I was just thinking, we were talking about having some compassion as well for leaders. We keep talking about what leaders can do, and these are all the competencies that leaders should have, and this is what leaders should do. They should not worry about their people working from home. They should get over themselves. There's a lot of shoulds going on around leadership, and I just would like to flag up, let's be compassionate around. It's not that easy, is it? And this is where we come into our own as coaches and mentors in terms of supporting that fear. Am I good enough anymore? Imposter syndrome rules hugely now. I just don't know where to go with everything. And is it possible for me to develop in those ways? Do I want to develop in those ways? Do I want my team to be hybrid, or do I want them here? And if I do want them here, should I be penalized because I want them here? There's lots and lots to think around. So just want to flag up compassion, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate that. I agree with you completely. Compassion and self-compassion. Let's start with self-compassion, for ourselves about how we are navigating these territories. So I think we have time for one last comment. Emmanuel, go ahead.
Yes, Damian, thank you for this fantastic subject you have brought for discussion. But my question is, today we are talking about post-COVID, and from your presentation, COVID is still here. And I look at after COVID, if you will finish, what next? So it means that daily we are being faced with different complexities, different factors that brings complexities to the environment we find ourselves. In our small group, we're discussing and saying that COVID has actually changed the perspective we were used to. So looking therefore at what is the quality of a leader we should have going forward, because for me, COVID is here, is finished. I mean, we have some other phenomenon that is coming to the space, and therefore making the workplace very difficult in managing. But therefore, you still have to get people to lead and to organize those environments. So I think, therefore, that a leader has to embrace him or herself with all the challenges of the time, not necessarily COVID, because, for example, COVID, we have come to live on a virtual world, a virtual system. But then other factors are coming in every day from the local society, local environment, local countries. Then how do you manage this? So therefore, I just feel that someone talked about empathy, adaptability, flexibility, but all these are very important. Much as they are important, but a leader really has to adapt himself to the situations around us and the ones that are coming to be able to manage the situation. It's just my...
So, Manuel, we need to start wrapping up. We have a couple of minutes, and some people may be able to stay. We are going to stay for people who are available. We have 30 minutes. It's like a social, but we are going to continue the conversation for people who can stay. But for people who cannot stay, give me 2 minutes to wrap up the session. I believe that what you're bringing, I agree with you. I think that leaders need to be assessing themselves all the time. They need to be evaluating where they are, and they need to have clarity where they need to go and where they want to go. And that requires sensitivities. They need to develop. You mentioned the skills. These are the skills that I covered in the session today, that are the ones that we as coaches need to invite leaders to consider and reflect. Some of this information you may share with your client. And there is a new resource that I just got that is very interesting. It's called the Handbook for Post-COVID Engagement, a comic book for executives. So this is like a really great resource to bring to invite leaders to get and use from a comic perspective, from a comics and it's really fun to read. I didn't finish it yet, but that can be an interesting resource. I'm going to write it down in the chat room too as a resource for you. And the idea is that this is a puzzle. We don't have all of the parts, unfortunately. It's like we are trying to make sense of this puzzle and working on that to find the best answers. And some of these questions the answers are in progress. So your question is, the answer to that question is in progress, is being aware where we are, having a high level of awareness of ourselves, keep working on that, keep assessing, and at the same time, not doing it by ourselves. So that's the reason why I do believe that it's so important for coaches to be working with supervisors, collaborating with other colleagues, participating like here today in other EMCC activities where you meet other colleagues and you can keep learning and growing together, because I believe that in this process, and to make organizations more healthier, let's say, we need to collaborate, we need to work together. So the invitation is to reflect on how you can keep this conversation, how you can find ways to collaborate, how you can work with your own supervisors to discuss the issues we covered today. And I want to invite you to be in communication with me. I think several people here are in communication with me, but if you're not, you may, if you have a phone, you can use this code to get to my website. This is my email where you can reach me, my website. You can find me in Twitter, in Instagram, in LinkedIn, in Facebook, in YouTube. I don't know why I'm missing here a couple of symbols, but in YouTube, I have 350 videos. So there are a lot of resources that we have in YouTube with recordings in English and Spanish on coaching sessions, supervision sessions, keynote speaking sessions that I have done over the years. So there are a lot of resources. So if you use the first code, you can get into my website, and the second code is for the team coaching training we are starting. If anybody is interested in team coaching, it's something also that we do other than supervision training. And we do it also, we have programs in Spanish and in English for a lot of activities we do. So that's something else. But I want to invite people to at least connect through LinkedIn if you want to. And what I'm going to do is to stop here. And just in case, what I'm going to do is to share this information in the chat. So also as an easy way for you to get access to the links.
Oh, thank you, Damian. I popped your oh, brilliant, that's fantastic.
So these are the links that you can reach me in LinkedIn or in Facebook or in Instagram. There is also my newsletter. We have a newsletter. We organize every month free activities. So if you link to that link, you can subscribe in the newsletter, inside the newsletter. And also the American Coaching Supervision Network. I have been leading that for 5 years, and our goal is to bring visibility to coaching supervision in the Americas and worldwide. We have a conference coming up. And if you are interested, you can get the details in our website, the American Coaching Supervision Network.
Damian, thank you so much. I've got one last question for you, actually. Great conversation, and I hope I put the saved chat from the previous breakout room in the chat, so everybody go and grab that as well, and also save the chat for yourself too. But everything that you've heard today, Damian, and the things which people have been bringing up, what sticks in your mind the most, and what are your next steps?
Well, I think that the last two questions, Lisa's comment about compassion, I think was great to have it included in the next presentation as a point, and next to patience. And the other one is the question that this is all evolving, and we don't have final answers. We have just questions. Isn't that great about coaches? As coaches, we don't need to have the answers. I love that. But we need to have the questions. If we don't have the questions, we're in trouble. So I may not have an answer for the last question, but I think it's great that question was posed, and is, what is our blind spot? We always have something we're not seeing. So this is for me and for everyone. What may not be seen in our practice? What do we need to pay attention to that we're not paying enough attention?
Thank you, Damian. Can I give you an official EMCC Global thank you for...
Okay, great being here. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you.